there, and thank you for stopping by for another edition of Baking with Beth. Today we are going to be making salted caramel to fill our salted caramel macarons for Easter. Is it caramel or caramel? What do you think? I actually like saying caramel. Anyways, stick around and we'll get right to baking. Woo! What are the words I shouldn't say? Here we go. Now that we have all of our ingredients and everything here on the table, we are going to do our first step, which is cut the butter. So go ahead and grab your cutting board and your knife. Just cut your butter into small cubes and set that aside. Cut along the sides like this. Make sure you don't cut your fingers. And then line those up, cut on one side about the same size as you were doing before, and you're gonna flip that over and do the same two cuts on the last side. So now we have cubed butter. And we'll go ahead and put that back in our bowl and cube the rest of it. Go ahead and grab 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. I'm going to be putting our heavy whipping cream into the small saucepan because later we're going to be pouring this into the larger saucepan. We're gonna scrape all the sides, make sure you get every last drop. At the same time, we're also going to be heating up our sugar. So we have to be good at multitasking for today's project. Let's put those on the stove and make sure you stir both of them frequently. You want to make sure you're stirring constantly so as not to burn each of them. Now the cream, we're going to stop as soon as it starts to boil. And the cream is probably going to take a shorter amount of time, so just pay attention to that. And we are cooking on medium. So just keep stirring your sugar, keep stirring your cream, because they both need attention. They're both very needy. So here we have our sugars, the very early stages, but we're gonna stir this until we have a good caramel color. For this is the cream, and we are going to keep stirring until it starts to simmer slightly. You see this beautiful caramel color that's coming in. You wanna make sure you're scraping the bottom of your pot. Coming back to our cream, this is a fun game. Our cream is starting to get a few bubbles here. Not very active though. We're looking for a simmer. Now back over here in the sugar side. It's looking good. There we go. Good job. Look at this sugar. It is doing great. Starting to get some beautiful color here. Cream here, it's starting to get a little bit of a bubble, but we want it to simmer. We want it to just reach the simmering point, which it's not currently doing. So it's almost there. Okay, how's it looking, sugar? All right, look at this. Here we have a little simmer. Turn it off and just let it sit there. We're gonna finish our sugar, which is almost done. We need to make sure that all of the sugar has dissolved and we get a nice dark brown color. Almost there, we've got a few pieces. Okay, I think we're ready. Great. Now our sugar and our cream are both done. We are going to remove them from the heat, pour in. Woo! It is bubbling. Okay, be careful. It is hot. Be careful, I forgot that it did this. All right, so when you pour in your cream to your sugar, you want to make sure that you're stirring it, and just be cautious because it can bubble up and, you know, be crazy. So now that we've done our science experiment for the day, you are going to want to let this cool until it is the correct temperature to put the butter in. We don't want to put the butter in right now because the butter will melt completely. Now you're going to grab your candy thermometer and place it here in your pot. And sometimes if your pot is too large, it doesn't really reach the bottom of the thermometer. So I just give it a little tilt so you can get a true temperature. And you want to let this sit until it's 45 degrees Celsius. Right now, to give you an idea, we are at about 80 degrees Celsius. When you read your thermometer, you always want to get level with the thermometer. You don't want to be reading it up here or like far down here. You want to make sure that you're level with it to get the right temperature. So we're at 80 degrees. We're going to let that cool before we put our butter in. Now we wait. It's been about 10 minutes now, and we are down to just over 50 degrees Celsius. We're getting there. In the meantime, you could really do nothing. There's nothing else to do. Just be patient. All right, here we go. We're still at 50 degrees. Okay, we're nearly there. Let's see what it is. It's 45 degrees! Woo! Take your thermometer out of your pot and scrape as much of this delicious caramel out as you can because you want every drop that you can get. Looks great. Yum. So now go ahead and add your butter a little bit at a time. Continue to stir. And stir, stir, stir. Keep adding your butter. We have a few more cubes to go. So just continue adding until we're all done. Just keep stirring. Final pieces of butter. Now keep stirring until you have no more clumps of butter in your caramel, because no one likes a butter clump. So we have quite a few lumps of butter, but we'll just keep stirring until they're gone. At this point, you can go ahead and add your salt in. Just keep stirring. And what you can do is you can press your spatula to the side of the pot, and that will squish your butter in between the spatula and the pot and break it up even more if you're having issues. This is a lesson of patience. Oh, we're almost there. Just keep stirring, keep squishing that butter. We're nearly there, but there's a couple of pieces of butter that are just really bothering me. So I'm gonna use this whisk and I'm just gonna whisk it a little bit. I'm gonna whisk it. Whisk it. I'm just gonna taste it, do a little taste test. Tastes like caramel. Now that our caramel is all finished, we can go ahead and pour this in a pan that we're gonna put in the fridge. You could probably use a cookie sheet if that's what you have. I would line that with maybe some parchment paper, because in the end, we're gonna be scraping the caramel off of this and putting it in a mixer to whisk it. Go ahead and pour your caramel. Look how beautiful that is. Oh my gosh. And just spread that evenly. It's gonna harden up nicely. Put that in the fridge. It's been about 5 hours and our caramel is looking beautiful. So grab a big spoon and put it in your mixing bowl. And we're gonna whisk that until it becomes the consistency that is good enough to pipe. This looks so good. Our next step is to grab a pot and fill it with a little bit of water and boil it. This is going to be the base for our double boiler right here. Just place your mixer on top of it. Give your caramel a little bit of a stir to heat that up. You want to melt any crystals that may have formed in the fridge. So only for a little bit of time, not for very long. As you can see, the water is boiling and the bottom of your mixer just sits right there on top of the pot. Do that just for a little bit and then take it off and go ahead and whip up your caramel filling. It's looking beautiful. As you can see, this is our original color from the pan, and once we whipped it, it has turned into this gorgeous caramel light color. So we're gonna put that in a piping bag and pipe that onto our macarons. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm just lining up my macarons tops with their bottoms so I can easily pipe all of them at the same time. Grab your piping bag and roll it over to cup it. And I've already cut a small hole at the end of my bag. Plop some of that caramel into your bag. Letting it slide down. And we're not going to use all of this caramel. You'll have lots left over for your own dipping pleasure. So squeeze that caramel down just a little bit so you can grab the top of the bag. Twist it, and we're ready to pipe. So we're just going to give our macarons a little swirl. Really as much as you want. Don't worry too much about being perfect here because we're going to attach the tops to them and squish the caramel to the outside ever so slightly. There you go. Grab your top and you are going to put it on. And what I like to do is I like to squish it a little bit just so they match up perfectly. And then you place it back down. Grab your top, squish it, put it back down. there you go. Now we're going to decorate these with our edible paint. I'm just going to use the gold and brush the tops of these macarons. Do just like a few brush strokes. And there you have it, salted caramel macarons. Go ahead and put these in the fridge. They'll be good for about a day or so. If you want to freeze them, put them in an airtight container and freeze them. Otherwise, enjoy.